When you get into your car and you put on your seatbelt, you're not putting on your seatbelt because you're like, I'm planning to go get in an accident and die. But you're like, there could be adversity. I could have an accident. And if there was, I want to be prepared for it.
Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD podcast, where it's all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una.
For the last 3 weeks, we have been looking at the areas to focus on for 2026. And these are the areas that I am focusing on to set my business up for it to grow 10x, for us to have a lot more impact, a lot more time freedom, financial freedom, same as I want for my clients. So I'm sharing this with you so you can use these strategies and you can win. Okay, so we started off by looking at your expectations, then we looked at your skill set, then we looked at your strategic action plan, and that one is a masterclass of masterclasses. That was the episode before this one. If you have not listened to that one or watched it, this is a good time to pause and go back to that one and then come back here. Okay. But today, what we're going to look at, because this is part of a 5-part series, the fourth focus is the focus on the adversity quotient. Okay. Now, this is a concept that I taught the doctors in the EntreMD Business School at one of our in-person events, the Business Makeover Mastermind, and it is huge. And this is the reason why it is a focus for me for 2026. I do not think that 2026 will be less challenging than 2025. In fact, I do think it will be more challenging. I think it will be a lot more challenging, but people are still going to win. Why are they going to win? Because of their adversity quotient, right? Because they have the capacity to tolerate delays and denials and difficulties and all of that and move forward in spite of them. Now, the adversity quotient, the formal definition of it, is the measure of somebody's ability to withstand, overcome, and grow in the face of challenges. It's something that the immature entrepreneur would think that things should be easy. The veteran entrepreneur knows that things will not necessarily be easy, but they can get better. And because they can get better, they can still win, right? And so when I say that 2026, I don't think it will be easier, I'm still planning to win bigger, right? And in order to do that, it means that I have to grow in my capacity to withstand, overcome, and grow from challenges. My adversity quotient needs to grow. This is a big focus, and I'm going to kind of unpack it and give you 5 concepts here to think about it. So you put yourself in a position where the adversity shows up and you're good, right? Like you deal with what you have to deal with, but you're still moving forward. You're still good. All right, so let's take a look at this. I'm giving you 5 concepts. The first concept here is when adversity shows up, and adversity could be anything. I mean, we're talking things that are just part of business, like you get that 1-star review, or you have a team member that, who leaves, or you had a launch and the launch didn't go well, or you had this big referral source who used to send you a lot of patients that now doesn't send you patients anymore. I mean, you have a hospital that built a primary care practice right by your primary care practice. You have a vendor who helped you run your business in a profitable way that went out of business. All kinds of stuff can happen. So whichever, right? So I want to talk about some attitudes or some ways of thinking about this so you can navigate them, so you grow in your capacity to withstand, overcome, and grow from them. Okay. So the first one here is, what story will I let it tell? This is a question. When adversity shows up, what story will I let it tell? The first thing we have to understand here as entrepreneurs is a lot of times when things happen in our business, there's nothing wrong. I mean, like, it's just business, right? Like, so say you have somebody who leaves you a 1-star review. Well, it literally is just business, right? Like somebody is going to do that at some point, sometimes for things that maybe are not going so well in your business, and sometimes for things that were not wrong. Somebody just wanted to be spiteful. But this is something that chances are is going to happen. If you look at some of the biggest and best businesses, if they have enough reviews, they'll have somebody who leave a 1-star review. Like, I want you to think about this. I wrote a book called The Profitable Private Practice Playbook. And in that book, I took a long time to think about the commonest ways we leave money on the table as private practice owners. And I came up with 7 ways. And these 7 ways, if you fix them, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars recovered per doctor. So you have multiple doctors, you're talking millions of dollars. And so I looked at these 7 things, put it together, stress tested it with my business, stress tested it with my clients' businesses, did a workshop on it a number of times, and saw it and started seeing people create wild results from it. And then I wrote a book about it, right? And I'm like, okay, guys, literally, if you would read a chapter, do the chapter, read a chapter, do the chapter, your practice will be different. Because I'm all about seeing private practices thrive, like even in the midst of all these challenges that we have. And there are 1-star reviews on the book. I mean, and I'm like, I'm not the problem here. I'm trying to help, right? But that's just the nature of the beast, right? And so the question is, when you see that 1-star review, when that team member leaves, when that vendor leaves, when your competition gets stiffer, when you did this big push, this 90-day push to create new wins in your business, and those things don't work out the way you wanted them to work, what story do you let it tell? Because you can let it say, like, you can see a 1-star review and say, oh, my practice sucks. You could have a launch that doesn't do so well, and you're like, oh, nobody wants my coaching program or whatever that is. And you could have a team member leave, and you're like, they left because I don't know what I'm doing. This is not a good place to work. And most of the time, this is not true. Do you need to improve? We all need to improve, but this is not true. And the problem with that story is then the 1-star review is the least of your problems, because once you believe that story, you start showing up like the person for whom that story is. You start acting like the person for whom that story is true, and you start expecting that. And once you're there, you're stuck, like completely stuck. So I say this a lot of times, the challenge is not the problem. The real problem is what the challenge makes possible. Like if you believe my business sucks, I'm a horrible leader, all this stuff because of adversity, then you're stuck. Okay. So what I say is when adversity shows up, and when I say adversity in this, I'm talking about things internally in the business, I look at it as this is part of entrepreneurship. So thinking like, oh, these things should never happen. I should never lose a team member. I should never do, like, no, this is just part of it. It just is, right? It just is. There's no problem. There's no story to be told here. So that's the first thing. Don't write stories based on challenges. Don't write stories based on problems. Don't write stories based on any of those things. They just are. It's just what it is. That's the first thing. The second thing is, how will I let it affect me? Okay, how will I let it affect me? So when challenges show up, I can decide to let it stop me, to paralyze me, and all of those things. And it may for a few minutes or an hour, right? I can let it do that, or I can let it teach me a lesson. I can choose to see adversity as a teacher. So for instance, we got the 1-star review. Then I have to stop and say, okay, is there truth in this? So let's say it's for a private practice. Oh my goodness, so awful. We waited for an hour before we even saw the doctor. Is there truth in that? Or is the person just mad because you insisted on collecting a copay, right? So if there's truth in it, then the review, yes, it hurts. I mean, who wants a 1-star review? But you can also flip it and turn it into a teacher. Okay, so where did our systems break down that we had somebody wait for an hour? What can we do to make sure this never happens again? Because this is good for your company anyway, right? What do we do to make sure this never happens again? Okay, this team member who left, where was the breakdown? Maybe there was no breakdown. Maybe this person is just moving. Maybe they always wanted a different kind of opportunity and the opportunity fell in their lap or whatever, like whatever, right? So maybe there is nothing. And if there's nothing, you could still have a lesson, which is like, well, knowing what I now know, maybe I'd have cross-trained so we wouldn't have this big gap. Or maybe I would have checked in with this person more often and I would have known that this was not their final bus stop. So I'd have started preparing to hire in advance, right? So maybe there was no problem per se, but there's still a lesson to learn there. Or maybe it's like, you know, when I hired this person, I was just looking for a warm body. I didn't go through the proper process. I didn't do 3 interviews in 3 different places by 3 different people. I didn't even really call their references and all of those things. And so you're like, okay, the lesson learned here is, oh my goodness, we have to engage the proper hiring process. Like make this an SOP, make this the way we function. It may be, no, we hired right, but I was so busy, I didn't take the time to onboard this person. So they didn't know how to win. And they were just tired of not winning. So they left, right? So that's another thing to look at. And you're like, okay, well, now when we bring on a new hire, we know that a very important thing to do is to make out the time to train this person properly so they know how to win. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, how am I going to let it affect me? I could get paralyzed and decide I'm no longer hiring anybody because I suck at hiring all this stuff. Or I can learn the lesson and boom, go back at it. All right, so that's number 2. Number 3. So this is all about adversity. Why? In your business, things will show up. Your business is and will always be a construction site. There will always be something to fix, to work on, to make better, to optimize, and all of those things. And so the sooner we understand how to navigate that without getting completely bent out of shape, without pausing for 6 weeks and all of that, the better. Okay, so number 3, will I go through it alone or will I use leverage? Okay, now there are statements like John Maxwell said this, that 1 is too small a number for greatness. There are statements like what I say, which is there's no award for doing it alone. There is no Grammy Award, Oscar that you're going to get because you're like, I did this whole entrepreneurship thing by myself. And since there's no reward for doing it all by myself, I choose not to do it all by myself. Right? I choose not to. I choose to get all the help that I can get. So people understand this saying that it takes a village to raise a child. If it takes a village to raise a child, I want you to understand it takes a village to raise a business too. And if you want to enjoy the journey, I mean, I remember a patient that I had, she had an 18-month-old child and her husband was in the military and he was deployed. She was not in the country. And she had been the only person taking care of that child for 18 months. She literally had changed every single diaper by herself for 18 months. And yes, the child was there for the 18-month appointment. I did all the things I needed to do that. And I had to sit down with mom. I was like, okay, let's have a come to Jesus conversation because you're going to need to build a tribe. This is not the way this is supposed to go down at all. And she was so stressed out. So I was like, it was not designed to work that way. And I want to tell you the same thing. It was not designed to work that way. In fact, when I teach my clients, when we have our 90-day sprints workshop, a 90-day sprint plan workshop, I literally show them how to build the support team they will need ahead of time. Like before the challenge even shows up, is like when the challenges show up, these are the people I'm going to reach out for help. Like this is a decision made before. Why? Because we know it's coming. Some way, shape, or form, we know it's coming. Am I going to go through this alone? This is a decision. Maybe in the last 12 months, you went through challenges alone. Maybe because you felt like you didn't want to bother people, or maybe you felt like you were supposed to have it all together. Maybe it's because you didn't want to feel like that you didn't know what you were doing. Let me tell you something. I have been in the rooms with people running businesses all the way from 7 figures to billions in revenue every single year. And let me tell you what I know about every single one of them. They do not try to do it alone. They surround themselves with the smartest people they can, with the people who root for them the most, with all of it. They surround themselves with people. As we build our businesses, one of the things we must learn is to surround ourselves with people. Okay. So for some of you, it's your family members. For some of you, it is not your family members, right? Okay. So maybe you have family members, a sibling, you have your spouse. These are the people you lean on when challenging times show up, right? Maybe you have friends who are always there for you. As an entrepreneur, you have a community of entrepreneurs. This is why I love the community in the EntreMD Business School, because then you have challenges and you can come in and you're coming to people who get that it's part of the journey. They were there 2 weeks ago. Now they're on a mountain of mountains, like everything is working the way it's supposed to and all of that. And they're like, girl, man, it's okay. Like, this is what I did. This is what I did. Sometimes they just sit with you. Sometimes they just call you and they're on the phone. They let you vent, like whatever it is, but you need a community. And in 2026, my goodness, like you need a community. So when the times get tough, you don't have to weather the storm alone. You have a community to weather it with. Okay. And it could be mentors. Like, how do I navigate this? How do I get out of this? It could be coaches. It could be your team. Right? You find that, like challenges showed up in 2025 and I handled it myself. Meanwhile, I had team members who could take aspects of it off my plate. And you're like, nope. This time I'm leveraging my team. So are you going to use leverage or are you going to go through the challenge alone? I highly recommend you don't go through the challenge alone. It is 1,000% not worth it, like at all. Okay. So that's the leverage. Some of the leverage may even be books. So there's a doctor in the EntreMD Business School. She was like in a funk of sorts, right? Like just not feeling like things were moving the way they needed to move. And she wasn't making as much progress as she needed to make and all of this stuff. And at a point she was like, okay, I need to stop this. Like I can't go one more month, like in this kind of energy. I need to stop this. And she picks up a book. It's a really, really, really good book. I highly recommend it. It's called The Gap in the Game. It's by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And it's this whole concept of living in the game, living in the progress that you've already made as you pursue more progress, right? But not constantly living in this gap, like I'm here, but I'm supposed to be there, because the gap never goes away because you keep setting bigger and bigger goals, right, dear entrepreneur? That's what you keep doing. So you live in the game, like, oh, this is the progress I've made, but you have your eyes set on the next goal that you're going to hit. And so she reads the book and she's like, I'm not even done with the first chapter. I'm like, oh my goodness, I've been in the gap this whole time. I need to get back in the game and all this stuff. And boom, she snaps out of that, right? And so sometimes your leverage is books. Sometimes your leverage is, high quality strategy or other people's stories, autobiographies and stuff like that. But you want to build this arsenal, like this is the leverage that I'm going to use. So instead of going through this, instead of the adversity knocking me out for 5 weeks, it knocks me out for 5 minutes and maybe worst case scenario, 5 hours, right? And then I'm back, right? Okay. So will I go through it alone or will I do leverage? The fourth thing is, what adversity do I anticipate? This is so important. Now, sometimes I feel like I don't want to anticipate adversity. I want to pretend like it's not there and, all of that stuff. But please hear me. Okay. Because we do this. Okay. Now, when you get health insurance, you're not getting health insurance because you're planning to be sick. You're anticipating. Maybe I would. And if I would, this is how I'm going to handle that, right? I have my doctors, I have my health insurance, I have all this stuff. When you get into your car and you put on your seatbelt, you're not putting on your seatbelt because you're like, I'm planning to go get in an accident and die. But you're like, there could be adversity. I could have an accident. And if there was, I want to be prepared for it. I want to be prepared to give myself the best opportunity to come out of it without being hurt. Right? And so in the same way, as you go into the year, you're like, based on the goals I have, based on the way the economy is going, based on this, what adversity could happen? And this is not about you then looking at it and getting afraid and all that. It's about looking at it and saying, if that's what I'm going to face, then I am going to prepare for it. So if it shows up, I'm ready. So for instance, if you are, you have this big revenue goal, and one of the things you're going to do is a lot of selling, you already know a lot of mind drama is going to come up because you're going to have a lot of no's. Whether it's selling, direct to the consumer, or whether you're going to talk to a lot of referral sources and all this stuff, or you're going to go get funding. Like, there's so many no's to be had. You're going to raise your prices. You already know there's going to be so much mind drama. So you want to go ahead and decide, how will I respond to that? So for instance, someone said that he plays this game where he made getting no's, a game where when he gets up in the morning and he's making offers, his plan is to get 10 no's in a row. So he keeps going, making offers. Someone says yes. Oh, he has to start from the beginning. He makes a lot of offers, gets to the ninth one. Then someone says yes. Then he has to start all over. And he's doing all of these things until he gets 10 no's in a row. What is that? That is a method of handling adversity where a lot of mind drama will show up. So instead of dealing with that, you flip it and make it a game. And you're like, let's go play this game and get as many no's as we can get. Do you see what I'm saying? If you anticipate like, we have this busy season because we have this going on in the business, and then I have this in my personal life and all of this stuff. The question is then, how are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle that so that it's not a problem? So for instance, I don't know how I missed this. Sometimes it happens. I don't know how I missed this, but I had a 3-day goal setting experience, like a goal setting retreat experience that I hosted at my home church. It's 3 days, like Friday evening, all day Saturday, like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then Sunday, 10 a.m. to 12:30. And then, of course, I had fellowship to people till about 2. So we're talking a full weekend. Okay. Like I was the one running it. Right. And we had over 400 people in there. We had people registered from 29 different states and all of this. It was a production. Now, we did that. And then the following day, so that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the following day, Monday, they started a 5-day workshop, the Profitable Private Practice Workshop for private practice owners. Now, when you look at that, there's an element of quote unquote adversity, challenges, and all that stuff in the sense that okay, after a 3-day event like that, you want to give yourself a buffer and not run into another 5 days, right? But we're here. So the question is, because I looked ahead, now, not if I looked ahead properly, I wouldn't have done that at all. But now that I found it, I looked ahead and said, okay, what are the challenges that I would face? Well, one of the challenges is I could run out of steam. And when I do events, I always show up as if the people paid me 10 grand to be there. At the end of this retreat experience, one person walked up to me and said, now I understand why you charge people $30,000. You are really good at what you do. Another person sent me a text and said, oh my goodness, thank you for the $50,000 goal setting retreat experience. So that's the way I show up. I show up at 110%. But when you have things like this back to back to back to back, there is a tendency that you could run out of steam. I mean, people travel from California, from Kansas, from Florida, from New Jersey, from Louisiana, and all that. Like, I'm not going to have people travel from all of these places and then I'm functioning at 50%. Like, there is no universe where that will happen. So I could run out of steam. That's a big problem. And so I anticipated and I said, okay, what that means is on Friday after the session, I can't talk to anybody. I can't say hi to the people who came from outside. Like, it's just not a thing that can happen. And on Saturday, I can't do that either until after the session. And so I set it up where Friday, once I was done, boom, got in my car, went home, and I went to bed early, right? And all of these things. Why was I doing that? Because I know if I don't, we're going to have a problem. So we finished the retreat experience. And then on Sunday, I'm like, okay, in order for me to show up for the Profitable Private Practice Workshop and show up at 100%, I need to go through this week where, yes, there's a lot going on, but I have internal peace. I'm well rested. I have to have rest breaks in there. And so I spent about an hour on Sunday mapping out the week. I'm building all these rest blocks, rest and restoration blocks in there. So yes, I have the time to work on the workshop. I have the time to tweak the content. I have time to do all of that, meet with the team, all of that, but I have blocks of rest. So this is an example that's, like, it's not like hardcore adversity, but you can see how you can plan ahead and see what would the problem be and then build in the solution. So for instance, I have, as I look at my calendar for 2026, I have some months, about 2 or 3 months that are really heavy months. So they're either really heavy because of the business or they're really heavy. And when I say heavy, not bent out of shape heavy, but really heavy because of the church my husband and I co-pastor, right? Okay. Now, in those scenarios, I can look and say, okay, this is going to be a little more challenging than usual. And so I'm not going to then stack on a number of other things there. And I would strategically put some days off after it so that I'll be okay. Now, you may have a private practice, like in private practice, I'm peds. So in pediatrics, there's adversity that happens in the summer because now kids are not coming in for their physicals. Schools are not sending them and saying this kid has a fever. They need to get a school note before they can come back and all these things. So they have what they call, I don't call because I don't do that, called the summer slump. And you're like, okay, we've been here many times. We know once we hit June, end of May, June, July, it's like dead. So knowing that, what do you then do? For us, what we did is that we developed language to sell people on coming for their physicals then so they can avoid the back to school rush. And then we started having summers that looked more like the rest of the year, no longer dead, right? So what is that? Anticipating adversity and then preparing for it. Okay. So that's number 4. Number 5. Now, number 5 is very powerful. Okay. Number 5 is developing a daily mental toughness routine. Okay. Developing a mental toughness routine, understanding that the more tough you are mentally, the bigger challenges you can take on, the bigger moves you can make in your business, the bigger rewards. And rewards in terms of impact, time freedom, and financial freedom. Okay. Mental toughness is not something that's a gift. It's not something you just get. It's something that you build the way you build a muscle by working on it every day. Okay. Now, mental toughness will change. Like, one is that it'll help you do the bigger things like I described, but oh my goodness, it'll let you enjoy the journey where, things that happen adversity, kind of like water on a duck's back, right? So we want to build these things that let us build mental toughness every day. Okay. So I'll tell you what I do. I do a lot of prayer and meditation, a lot of prayer and meditation. And for me, meditation, being meditating on scriptures, because they have the nicest things to say about me. Okay. Like for instance, it says I'm a masterpiece. I'm like, I'm a whole masterpiece. But anyway, so prayer and meditation is part of that mental toughness. I know I'm not alone. I have help with what I do. Okay. Long walks in nature because they're so grounding for me, right? They're so grounding for me. And on those walks, I'm either praying or meditating or listening to a book that is building mental toughness, right? And then the other thing I do is I do a lot of challenges. So right now, at the time of this recording, I am on day 42 of a 50-day challenge. And in that challenge, one of the things that before now I would not do is I would not walk in the cold. Like once it's below 60 degrees, I'm like, forget it. Whenever you guys get back up to 60, count me in. So I would only walk when it was 60 degrees or above. It wasn't necessarily terribly bad, but this is the thing, right? That's a lot of time not to walk. That's a long time to have less movement. And I don't like to work out indoors. Like I like being outdoors. I'm an outdoor person. I don't like being on treadmills because they're indoors. I want to be outside. So anyway, and it was just, it's an obstacle. Like the cold is an obstacle that I refuse to overcome. And then I had a really big challenge. I gave the doctors in the entrepreneurship business school. I'm like, let's do this and let's do it for 50 days and all of this stuff. And I said, there's one thing I've never done for as long as I've been alive. I have never of my own free will walked in the cold. This is not a thing I do. I said, I will walk 50 5Ks, so 3.1 miles. I will walk 55 Ks every day for 50 consecutive days if you would do this challenge. They're like, what? Yeah, we want to see Dr. Una sweat it out in the cold. Like, yes, we'll do it, right? And then I put myself out there. I didn't have to do it, but I did because I was like, it will convince me even more that I'm the kind of person who overcomes obstacles. I'm the kind of person who's not stopped by things. I'm the kind of person who would have challenges come in front of her, and I'm going to overcome them. I'm going to overcome the challenges. That's what I'm going to do. And so today I got up. Today was not bad. It was like 43 degrees, but I've had 33, all kinds of weird, like never, ever before now had I done that. And so today was day 42, and I now look forward to my walks. I now like the feel of cold air against my face, which I hated. I like the feel of it, right? I would be out on walks and it's 40-degree weather and I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel really warm and I'll take off a layer, right? And stuff like that. But what it has done, it has made me go, when I see obstacles, I'm like, yep, it's just reps. I just need to do it long enough and it won't be an obstacle anymore. What did I do? I grew in mental toughness. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. So daily mental toughness routines. Okay. Daily mental toughness routines. And this is why we say yes to challenges. This is why we say yes to challenging things, because we're just trying to get ourselves to understand that we are the kind of people who overcome obstacles. Okay. So what do I want you to do? I want you to take these 5 things. Some of them are questions and some of them are decisions. And I want you to workshop them, because let me tell you why this is important. I cannot tell you how many businesses I've seen go out of business just because the entrepreneur could not handle the pressure. They just couldn't handle it. Like, oh, I need to market more. I'm not doing this. Oh, I need to hire people. I just decide I don't want to do it. I'll just get a job. I'm not looking at my profit and loss statement. I don't want to understand numbers. I don't want to do any of this kind of any of these things. Okay. I got a number of 5-star reviews. I got someone who was helping me who doesn't help me anymore, whatever. And they just shut down their business. Like this happens all the time. Okay. And they just throw it away. So this is so important because I suspect 2026 is going to be very challenging. It was Jim Rohn who said it. He said, don't wish you were easier, wish you were better. We don't have control over whether it will be more challenging or not, but we do have control over if we'll be better. So I want to invite you to be better. I want to invite you to have an adversity quotient, your ability to withstand, overcome, and grow from challenges. I want that to be higher. I want you to have that higher so that when the storms come, you can weather them. When the storms come, you can handle them. And because you have a high adversity quotient, you learn from them, you grow from them. So challenges start making you better. They start making you better. Okay? That's what I want for you. And if you're listening to this and you're in the entrepreneurship business school, you will see that all of these things are built within the school. So for instance, the story you'll let it tell you, this is why we constantly have people sharing their trials and their triumphs. They share both of them. So you can see that challenges, they're a normal part of the journey. So when someone tells you like, this is what happened, or this is a loss I had in my family, this is what happened in my health, and this is quote unquote bad thing that happened in my business and all of that stuff. And still they come out and have all these wins and all. You're like, oh, this doesn't stop me from going over there. This is just part of the journey. How will you let it affect you? Remember, when we do our quarter in review, we say we win or we learn. So what were the wins? What were the lessons? We don't say, what did we fail at? That's not a thing, because the adversity, the challenge, all of those things, we learn from them. Okay. Will you go through this alone or use leverage? Now, we're very big on leverage. We're really big on leaning into the community when you have challenges. That's why people show up and like, okay, this is a challenge I'm facing. How would you handle it? And I come out and answer those, and the classmates come out and answer those. So you don't have to go through it alone. That's why you constantly hear me say, when challenges show up, you don't pull away from the community, you lean into the community. Okay. The adversity you anticipate. So when we show up on those Wednesday sessions, we're like, okay, this is what could happen. This is what could happen. This is how you handle it. And then you also see people in different stages of business, and you see the different kinds of challenges they're having. So you're like, oh, that's what happens at that level, right? But then you already know, you're ready. Okay. And then the daily mental toughness routine, you guys know, you get a challenge every single month, you get a challenge. And the reason for that challenge, of course, is to help you learn skills, is to help you put in the reps, to help you master certain things, but it's also to develop mental toughness, the reinvention by imagination to develop mental toughness. So it's all built in. And so the more you engage with the process, the more you have this happening to you by default. Right? But now you have understanding of what exactly is going on. Okay. So I want you guys to engage with this. I want you to start identifying as a kind of entrepreneur who is not thrown off by adversity. You're not thrown off because you know it's part of the game and you're here to win. Okay. And I want you to think about it. Like, imagine with me for a moment, right? 2026, it turns out it's more challenging, but those challenges made you tougher. They made your businesses better. You had more impact, more time freedom, more financial freedom, more time with your family, more trips. You have so many more people in spite of the adversity. This can be your story where, yes, there was adversity and yes, you won. Okay. So I'm rooting for you. This is probably one you want to listen to again, grab a couple of friends, work out what you're going to do. And I will see you, my friend, on the next episode of the EntreMD Podcast.